Hello YouTube, how is everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I got a crazy current events video. If you guys aren't familiar with this is where I basically react to ridiculous stories that are going around. I give my thoughts on it, and this is actually one that you guys have heavily requested from me. So in the past couple weeks, I have probably had hundreds of comments of people asking me to make a video talking about this. This is probably the most requested topic that I've had people ask me about. Like every stream I have dozens of comments of people asking me what I think of the Online Saftey Act. I didn't even really know that much about it until you guys brought it to my attention. But this is basically a law that was passed in the UK. Now I'm gonna really stay away from the politics because I really don't like discussing politics. I tend to stay away from that. But I will more be talking about the law itself and why I think the law is stupid, why it's not going to work, why it's going to cause problems, why it's just overall bad. A lot of people are panicking about it, and for good reason. And it's going to cause a lot of issues. So basically, what is the Online Saftey Act? The Online Saftey Act, this was a law that was passed in 2023, but now it's had a few phases of it, but now the final phase that's been implemented in July last month, this is the part that's having a lot of people worried. Now, what that basically is that the government is going to require platformers, specifically adult websites and other sites that might have, anything inappropriate, gory, very violent stuff that basically children should not see, that people that access these sites are going to need to require to show some kind of government ID, driver's license, passport. I'm not sure exactly all the documents that they're going to need, but they're going to basically need some kind of verification in order to go on these sites. Now, everybody that's watching this, I think all of us can pretty much agree that children should not be accessing things like adult sites. But the thing is that how do you deal with something like this exactly? How do you stop this from happening? You know what? I'm going to propose a solution that these idiotic politicians have not thought about at all. And you know what? You know what that is? To stop children from going on these adult sites, the most simple thing is the parents. The parents should stop their kids from going on these sites. The parents are basically that wall that is going to stop their kids from going to these sites. And that is what I do not understand about this, is that the UK government wants to interfere in this directly. They want people to show their IDs as they're logging into these sites. And this isn't just for adult sites, like pornographic sites. This could also be applied to like YouTube and video games as well. So any video games that they say that might have content that would be inappropriate for children, they are going to require this ID. Now, not every single service has implemented this yet. I'm sure there has been some, but gradually over time this is going to cause a lot of issues, and it's also going to hurt the UK economy. It's going to damage the economy of the UK, which I'll explain why in a little bit. But basically, that is my viewpoint on this. Is I think that the parents are the most responsible for this, and I don't understand why people want government in their lives to get involved in stuff like this. Like, this is not the government's job. It's the parents' job to protect their kids from stuff like this. So parents should basically be monitoring their kids' devices, preventing their kids from going to these adult sites. I don't understand why the government wants to get involved, but sooner or later, people are going to want the government to basically hold your hand as you cross the street. That's basically going to be the next steps. Well, I don't know how anybody can support this. I just think that this is ridiculous, but this is going to hurt a lot of other people, because other people that go, for example, on YouTube, not necessarily to and not necessarily always for this pornographic stuff, but like somebody might be, maybe for example, watching like a violent movie like on YouTube, and this violent movie maybe has like a sex scene, romance scene. Now they're going to be required to show their ID, to basically type that in. Somebody plays like a violent game like GTA. The GTA games have prostitution in them, and not only do the GTA games have prostitution in them, the GTA games also have strip clubs in them. A lot of them do, and so now people were saying this, that they're going to require like you to basically show your ID when you log into video games like this, and it's just stupid. This is not the government's business, and government should not be collecting this information. Now, the UK government is basically arguing, oh, we aren't collecting this information. This is just the we're just requiring the providers to collect this information and verify that you are an adult. But the thing is, the UK government could audit these companies at any time, so they could basically like audit Rockstar, and they say, okay, we want all this information now. That you have all these people's IDs who signed into GTA 6 Online or whatever else when that comes out. So basically, that's what I'm saying, is this could be abused. This could be abused by the government. It's giving the government more power, and it's giving the government access to people's personal information. Now, I don't think this stuff is ever going to happen in America, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But we're just going to be basically covering about the UK. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Some people are going to say in the comments, well, what about VPNs, Professional? Yeah, VPN can get around this, so you won't need to give the government your ID. However, though, the UK government is already on this. The UK government, specifically the children's, commissioner for England, she wants to actually require VPNs just to access a VPN. Not even not even to use a VPN just for these like adult sites or anything like that. She wants VPNs to require IDs. So if you're gonna use a VPN, you need an ID, and that's the whole purpose of a VPN, is to keep yourself anonymous. That's really the whole purpose of a VPN. Is like when you're requiring a VPN to now have ID, that's now a violation of that person's privacy, and people are going to stop using the VPNs at the same time too. So while VPN usage has increased, requiring VPNs to now collect information, and what happens if the VPN gets hacked? Because hackers target VPNs all the time. A lot of companies use VPNs for their business, and so now having this extra step, it's going to make things more bureaucratic, more complicated, and it's going to hurt a lot of businesses that use VPNs. So now a lot of companies are going to be affected by this, and the British economy already is not in good shape. And so I don't know, why they're doing stuff like this when it's going to hurt their economy even more. But let's just watch this clip really, really quick right here. I will also link this video down below.
Parents really, can't stop the tide of this stuff on social media. It's the tech firms that need to step up and do this.
No, parents can very much stop, this stuff. Is that if parents want to, just don't let your kids use social media. Don't let them use social media. Like, when I was a kid growing up, I never used social media. I didn't use any of that stuff. I didn't use Twitter or anything like that. I didn't use Twitter until the end of high school. That's basically when I started using it. So I did not use really any kind of social media whatsoever. So like she's saying, parents cannot control, this stuff. Yes, they can. Don't let your child use social media. That's, if you don't want your children looking up bad things on social media, don't let them use social media. That's it. And also, a lot of these social media companies already have like filters that parents can turn on, so they can say, there's a child on this account, and they still like all these, safety checks, so certain things won't be shown to children. So there's already checks on this stuff. I mean, even for video games, for example, you can turn on parental controls that will prevent, the child from being able to play like, very violent games like GTA. So if the child tries to play GTA on the PlayStation, it'll lock them out.
I've been calling on them to do this. Don't wait for the online safety bill. They can take down these images. They know how young children are on site. They can actually make sure that they have proper age assurance. Now the law is going through Parliament at the moment. The online safety bill will force them to do it. But frankly, these are multi-billion-pound companies. They should be having a moral compass and doing this now, and they perfectly well can. I see the tech companies every 6 months and challenge them on this. How are you stopping children who are too young being online? Why are you not taking these images down? Because it's affecting our society and affecting children's happiness.
Okay, here's what I will tell you guys about this. Is it sounds easier said than done. This woman is not qualified at all for her job in regulating these social media companies. She's acting like they can just flip on a switch and they can just take care of this all right away. These social media companies have their moderation, teams that are, there to get rid of, images that are, inappropriate, images that are bad, violent, gruesome. But the thing about this is that she underestimates how many people use social media. Like, you have hundreds of millions of people that use social media across the world, and you have hundreds of millions of photographs that are on social media. And so how exactly are you going to filter out all of that stuff? They have their moderations, they have their AI thing that's used to detect certain pictures, but she's making it seem like it's all just so easy. The social media companies can just get rid of this, 1, 2, 3. She does not seem to understand this. There have been, nasty things on social media before. I remember when I was in high school, there was kids talking about this cartel execution that happened on social media. So there was a cartel that apparently posted like an execution that happened on social media. So literally, there's bad people on social media. They're going to be posting stuff. It's going to happen. There's, hundreds of millions of posts. But she's making it seem like the government can just flip a switch and can just remove all of that stuff right away. These social media companies, I don't want to defend them all the way because some of them are pretty scummy, but the point I'm getting at is a lot of them also do try to already get rid of this stuff, filter out this stuff, because it makes their platforms look bad when there's, stuff like, somebody getting murdered, being a video of something like that being posted online. But yeah, that's basically it. She's making it seem like it's 1, 2, 3, flip a switch, and that's it, it's done. It's stupid. Now, I will also wanted to bring this up here, and I'll link this article here. So 4chan, this is, the big online site that's in the US, the message board site. 4chan actually is being sued by the British government right now. So the British government are going after 4chan. I don't think it's an official case at the moment yet, but they're threatening to fine them. But basically, what's going on here is that they're telling 4chan, the UK government is telling 4chan that you have to comply with this. You have to require, users to, you have to require users to basically provide their ID to show exactly who they are. But here's the thing: a site like 4chan is not going to do something like that. Like 4chan knows that the vast majority of their users don't support stuff like this, and so they're sticking by their users, and they basically have told the UK government no, F no. And this is their response. Burn and Storm PC, attorneys at law, reply statement regarding Ofcom's reported provisional notice. 4chan Community Support LLC. Burn and Storm PC. Burn, Storm, and Coleman Law PC represent 4chan Community Support LLC. According to press reports, the UK Office of Communications has issued a provisional notice under the Online Saftey Act alleging a contravention by 4chan and indicating an intention to impose a penalty of £20,000 plus daily penalties thereafter. And I know that the punishment for violating the Online Saftey Act is very severe. It's like 10% of their income. So like, or 20% of their income, I think that's what it is. So like, if you think about that, 10% or 20% of a company's entire income for violating this, that's extreme severe. And it's gonna, they're trying to really scare companies into this, but I'm telling you, this is gonna backfire really badly. 4chan is a lot of this stuff, this bureaucracy, this overregulation, this stuff getting in, it's going to make it more difficult for people to access social media, more difficult to use these sites, and these sites are going to end up losing money. And also the regulation of VPNs is not just going to affect, those social media sites, but affect a lot of businesses that use VPNs. 4chan is a United States company incorporated in Delaware with no establishment, assets, or operations in the United Kingdom. Any attempt to impose or enforce a penalty against 4chan will be resisted in U.S. federal court. American business do not surrender their First Amendment rights because a foreign bureaucrat sends them an email. Under settled principles of U.S. law, American courts will not enforce foreign penal fines or censorship codes. Perfect here. Exact responses. No foreign court is going to tell, an American company how they can basically regulate their speech on their site. If necessary, we will seek appropriate relief in U.S. federal court to confirm these principles. United States federal authorities have been briefed on this matter. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was reportedly warned by the White House to cease targeting Americans with UK censorship codes, according to reporting in the Telegraph on July 30th. Despite these warnings, Ofcom continues its illegal campaign of harassment against American technology firms. A political solution to this matter is urgently required, and that solution must come from the highest levels of American government. We call on the Trump administration to invoke all diplomatic and legal levers available to the United States to protect American companies from extraterritorial censorship mandates. Our client reserves all rights. So yeah, great response there. And look, no matter how much the UK fines 4chan, the US will not comply, and the US will not extradite anybody from 4chan. They will not, post any kind of fines on 4chan because the US has no obligation to follow British law. So, they can't apply British law inside America. Now, what the UK might do is the UK government might just ban 4chan from their country. They might just, so when you try to search up 4chan, it might get banned, but they're not going to comply with this. So they don't care about the fines. It's not going to happen, and they're going to stand their ground on this. I will also say is that this is not the first time that the British government has actually threatened American citizens. This has also happened in the past. It actually happened last year. I'm going to play this clip here for you guys. This actually happened last year. I was actually going to make a crazy current event story about this last year, but I just didn't have time. And then when I finally got around to it, the story was like already weeks old, and I just never made it. But this is last year when those terrible, terrible riots happened. But during that is that the UK police commissioner, he made a really, nasty statement here, and he basically threatened to extradite Americans for social media posts. But just listen to this here.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Talk to me about that, because we have seen some high-profile figures whipping up the hatred. You talked about it in there with the officers, in fact, about this being added to by online commentary. I mean, I'm even thinking of the likes of Elon Musk getting involved. What are you considering when it comes to dealing with people who are whipping up this kind of behaviour from behind a keyboard and maybe in a different country?
Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offences of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offences regarding the sort of publishing of material. All of those offences are in play if people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we will come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and the obs who are causing the problems for communities.
Okay, now I wanted to also bring this up too to add this to the story because this is not the first time that this has happened where the British government has basically threatened to extradite Americans. Now, this is explaining American law here. The First Amendment in the United States Constitution, this is the right to free speech, and it basically says that Congress shall make no law regulating free speech. Now, America is one of the freest countries in the world when it comes to free speech. In the United States, in my country, you can say pretty much anything that you want in public. There's only really two things that you cannot say. You cannot, for example, cause a public scare, like, yelling fire in a theater or bombing a plane, but that's not really free speech. That's more inciting a panic and people can get hurt. And the second thing is you cannot threaten people. So if you threaten actually bodily harm against somebody, you threaten to actually hurt somebody, kill somebody, that's illegal. But other than that, you can say anything you want in America. You can say anything. People can say hateful things. They can criticize the government. You can even advocate separatism in America. One of my friends from India, I was talking to him about this actually, and he told me that in India that it's actually illegal to advocate separatism. So in India, you can't, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, you can't, like, for example, say, this part of India should be an independent country. But, like, in America, you can do that. So, like, in America, for example, you can say, Alaska should be an independent country. Alaska should break away from the United States and be an independent country. You can even create a political party in America that runs for independence of, like, a state. Like, there is the Alaska Independence Party. Now, they didn't really win any elections, but that party still exists, and you can do that. Now, whether you can actually break Alaska away from America, that's a whole different story. But the point is that you can even advocate for separatism. In a lot of countries, you cannot do that. In a lot of countries, you can't advocate separatism. So, American free speech is, some of the freest in the world. You can say whatever you want. And what the British police do not understand about this, and it's not just the British police, I would also say it's the European, a lot of European police, because I know police in Germany do this, I think police in France do this as well. They will, come to people's houses and they will basically find them, arrest them for social media posts. Now, my criticism of this is that how is the government, I'm very libertarian on free speech, I'm very pro-free speech, and my position on this is who is determining exactly what's hate speech or what isn't? I don't support any kind of hate speech. I don't support any kind of racism against anybody. How do you determine exactly what's hate speech, and who determines that exactly? Because before you know it, you can, the government is going to start saying, oh, this is hate speech, this is hate speech, this is hate speech, when it's not even hate speech. And they'll just make up anything just to basically get rid of their political opponents, anybody that they don't agree with. I know, for example, in Germany, you can't insult people in public. You can't even do that. In America, you can go tell somebody to F off, piss off. You're not going to get arrested. You're not going to get fined for something. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's at least what I read about that, is that you cannot insult people in public in Germany. So in America, when it comes to stuff like racism, when it comes to stuff like free speech, we don't support racism. The majority of people in America, we don't support racism. We don't support hate against anybody. But we see dealing with it differently than, for example, in like Europe. In Europe, there's more of a collectivist mindset on this, that the government should get involved in these affairs. In America, it's more of an individualist mindset. But in America, how we view it generally is we view it that if somebody is, spewing hate speech, if somebody is saying something racist, they're going to be condemned, and you counter that with speech back. You have a discussion, you have an argument with them, you prove them wrong, you make that person look stupid. That's basically it. You defeat that person in debate. Now, some people you can't reason with, some people are just going to be racist scumbags no matter what, but the solution is not that you just arrest anybody for, posts. And like I said, people can be arrested for posts that are not even, hate speech. And this is not going to make the situation better. People think that, just arresting somebody for, like, for example, making a racist post, that is going to fix the problem. What that's going to do is, if somebody is really racist, right, and they're posting all these racist things on social media, if you arrest that person and you put that person in prison, that is not going to change their views. I don't know where this, how the government is thinking, but just thinking, arrest this person for racist post, that's going to somehow stop them from being racist and they're not going to be racist anymore. That is just nonsense. What's going to happen is that person's probably going to become even more racist because they're going to hate the government for arresting them. And what's going to happen is that person is going to get put in prison with even more extreme people, and then they're going to develop even more extreme racist views, being in prison with all these people. And what's going to happen is when that person comes out, now that person's going to be even more extreme, and they're actually going to be physically dangerous. So that is basically, is that arresting all these people, it's going to make the situation worse. And that's my viewpoint on this. I think that the solution is, you cannot, you don't get the government involved in stuff like this. You you counter hate speech by actually having speech back. That's at least my point from my country. That's the American view. But I know, like, for example, a lot of Europeans, they say that, like, Americans support hate speech. No, it's not true. It's that, hate speech is not tolerated. If somebody says something racist, it's condemned in America. The difference is that, we don't find or we don't arrest people for stuff like that, but threatening to, extradite, Americans also for, any kind of posts, and people that aren't necessarily even saying hateful things. People might just criticize the UK government, say the UK government are a bunch of effing idiots. The UK government say, oh, that's hate speech, let's extradite this person. What a lot of people don't understand is that stuff like this is exactly how dictatorships start. Now, I'm not calling the UK a dictatorship. I'm not trying to offend anybody from the UK. So that's not my intention. I'm the only thing I'm saying is that this is how a lot of dictatorships start with their free speech. What a lot of people don't know is that when dictators come to power, they don't just abolish free speech right away. It gradually happens slowly over time. They'll say, oh, this thing is a threat to national security. You can't say this. You can't say that. That's bad for the country. And then eventually, it gets to the point where you cannot say anything whatsoever against the government. This right here, this is the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise therefore or abrogating the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So that's basically it. Is that in America the government basically has no right whatsoever to limit free speech. So that's the point that I was getting at that. And I want to talk about now on why I don't think this is going to come to America. Now, a lot of people are panicking about this. They're thinking that this law is going to come to America, and they're thinking that it's going to affect them. It can affect you to a certain degree, but not entirely if you're in the U.S. Now, what I think is going to happen is that if a private company, for example, if they try to require you to have ID, for example, to sign into their site, to do something like that, the government can't really do anything about that because it's a private company, and they're saying that to use their service, to use our service, you need to, log in with your ID. So some companies in America will say, for example, to comply with this law in the UK, we're now going to require Americans, but I can't really see that happening because it would just create more bureaucratic problems in America. If they don't have to do it in America, I don't see why they would. So I don't think that they're necessarily going to follow that in America. I think they're just going to follow that if they do business in the UK. It's like I said, is that some companies might require you to log in, but it's not going to be government mandated. Now, I know some states in America, they do have some laws regarding to logging into certain websites that people need to show IDs, but it's not very common, and there's no kind of federal law on this. Now, I know some people are going to bring up COPPA, the children's that children's law that YouTube had a massive problem with 6 years ago, where all the kids content that happened. But COPPA is very different than the Online Saftey Act in the UK, because COPPA, what that basically is that it's preventing companies from collecting information on children. So companies are not allowed to collect information on children. Now, what happened with YouTube, with YouTube disabling the comments and all this other stuff, that stuff was just stupid how it happened. But YouTube apparently was collecting information and giving that to advertisers on what kids were watching, and then the federal government got involved and fined them, and that's why YouTube created that whole for kids section, and that's why they even restricted comments. If you look at videos for cartoons for kids, the comments are all disabled. The reason for that is because somebody could argue that by YouTube collecting comments, even storing comments for those videos, they're collecting information on kids, and so that's probably why they didn't allow comments on that. But it's different. It's that COPPA is basically just saying that that the government cannot collect information on kids, or that companies, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, that companies cannot collect information on kids when they're using their service. They cannot collect information, give this to advertisers. But the Online Saftey Act is actually requiring, for example, people to log in with their IDs, give their IDs to these companies, and it's basically just a breach of privacy. You could also argue it's a breach of the First Amendment. So I don't think anything like that is going to happen in America federally, because it violates the First Amendment. But I wouldn't just say it violates the First Amendment. It also violates the Fourth Amendment, which I'll bring that up right here. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, what this amendment basically does is this amendment prevents the government from just coming into your house and just searching it whenever they want. The government needs a warrant, and in order to search your property, they need that from a judge. Now, even if they have a warrant, they need a specific thing they only are able to search a specific thing. So if they get, like, for example, a warrant to search your computer, they can only search your computer. They can't go through the rest of your house and just, go through your shelves and your drawers and everything else like that. They can only search what the warrant is telling them to. And I would argue that what that OSA law is doing in the UK is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, because it's unreasonable search and seizures. And it says the right of the people to be secure in their persons' houses. So my argument for that, this is where my argument comes in. You are in your own home. You're in your own home. You're using a computer or a laptop, a device that you own, a device that you paid for. You are using your internet provider, a service that you paid for. If you decide to play a game like, GTA Online or something like that, the government, by requiring you to provide your ID, is an unreasonable search and seizure. It's you're in your own house. You're playing a game that you own. You're playing a game on your computer or console, whatever else. It is your property. The government requiring you to provide an ID. I would very much argue that that is an illegal search and seizure right there. So that's basically why I don't think stuff like that is going to happen in America federally. At least some states, sure, to an extent, but federally, I don't think it's going to happen, because the Supreme Court will basically strike something like this down. And now, I know people are going to ask me, GTA 6, professional GTA 6, is this going to affect GTA 6 online? In the UK, probably. In the UK, you're probably going to need it. Rockstar is probably going to require people to sign in, with their IDs if you're playing a game like GTA 6. Now, is this going to come to America? Probably not, because all it would do is it would just piss off the American, gamers, and it would just cause an extra layer, and less people will be playing GTA 6, online and, single player, specifically because of that. So if Rockstar can avoid doing this in other countries, they're going to do it. They have no reason to implement this in a country like America. But in a country like Britain, they're probably going to do something like this. So I don't really see it like next year when GTA 6 Online comes out, that it's going to require you to, give an ID. If you're, at least in America, no. But if you're in Britain, it's a whole different story. But that's basically my whole viewpoint on this. I think that this is just stupid. I think it's a violation of privacy. I think that, regulating speech and requiring people to have, their IDs, when they sign in online and they go to these sites or play these violent games with nudity and other stuff like that. This is up to the parents. If the parents don't want their kids, playing these violent games, if the parents don't want their kids looking up bad things on social media, the parents should be in control of their kids. You don't need government to hold your hand as you're crossing the street. This is ultimately up to the parents. If parents need the government to basically regulate this stuff for them, they're bad parents. If you cannot regulate what your kids are doing, if you cannot regulate what your kids are playing, what game your kids are playing, and all this other stuff, that is on you. It's not the government's job to get involved and also mess everybody else up, because now you're interfering in other people's personal lives too. It's just pure stupidity. That's basically what I think about it. So that's basically it. I know the video's like 30 minutes long, but I had to, break down a lot of stuff, but just basically explaining that stuff here. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed my little rant there. But I do think this is stupid. And I just don't, me personally, like I said, I'm very libertarian in my views. I'm very pro-freedom person, very pro-free speech. I don't even ban people for insulting me in my live streams. I only ban people when they're, posting something racist and harassing other people in the chat, or if they're posting scams. But other than that, I don't even ban people from coming into my chat and insulting me. So even if somebody insults me, I don't ban them. I'm big on free speech, and I just don't think that that it should be censored, and I don't think that government should be forcing you to give your ID when you're signing into different websites. I don't think that that's the government's business. I think the government should worry about the economy and foreign affairs, and not worry about what people are doing in their personal lives. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.